About a month ago at Jump Fest, we received the first ever teaser for the Jujutsu Kaisen Season 3 anime. But it wasn't an animated trailer or anything, it was actually this really well drawn poster. And ever since then, I've been wondering how the third season's going to look like. Until I had an idea. What if I tried to animate a fight scene from the new season before Mappa? So later, when the real anime releases, we can compare the two works. But first, we need to choose a fight to adapt. And there's so many fights during the Cooling Games arc, it's not even funny. However, there's one that I'm particularly fond of, and that's the Yuji vs Higuruma fight. The art, the context, and the ending of this fight are undeniably peak. So, adapting to an animation won't be easy. So, let's go step by step. First of all, we have the storyboards. I said how I make my storyboards a plethora of times in this channel. So today, I want to focus on 3 main points. 1. Manga panels. In anime productions, when storyboard artists are adapting a manga, sometimes they use the manga panels as the actual storyboards. This saves a lot of time, and you know, if it saves time, I'm doing it. But don't get me wrong, I didn't follow the manga one by one, mostly because I didn't have voice actors, and they talk a lot during this fight. So, I had to be creative. And this leads us to our second point. Changes. I added and changed some stuff here and there to make everything flow well together. Like this one small part where in the manga, Higuruma stands there talking and just allows Yuji to run away. In my version, I made that Yuji kicks Higuruma and then he loses sight of Yuji. And third and final thing is that I storyboarded the fight from the point on where Higuruma gets the executioner sword. And I stopped storyboarding when Yuji lands a big ass punch on Higuruma's stomach. So hopefully, I'll be able to animate everything I have in mind with no problems whatsoever. Talking about animating, why we don't, try to do the thing that's in the title? Animating this specific project was very different.
What do you mean by that?
Like I did a bunch of things that I rarely do. For example, I assigned different colors to characters to make them stand out from each other. I also ended up doing something I haven't done in a while, which is a very weird thing that I don't actually know if other animators do. And that is animating keyframes in reverse. So usually after drawing 2 keyframes, the normal thing to do is in between them from keyframe 1 to keyframe 2. But sometimes I think it's easier to go from keyframe 2 to keyframe 1. I don't know, it's sometimes just the posing or just like visualizing the movement feels easier in reverse. And while animating, I might have committed a mistake. After making a rough animation, animators will do passes to correct it until they are able to clean it up. However, I just didn't do that. Instead, I focused more on nailing the movement rather than making good drawings. And hopefully, I won't regret this decision at all in the future. Okay guys, don't worry. Because for every mistake I made, I get at least 2 things right. First of all, I don't know if you noticed, but I haven't been drawing background layouts, neither in the storyboards or while I'm making rough animation. That's because Yuji and Higuruma are inside this theater of sorts. So I had an idea to make them being lit from a stage light. So the circle that I've been drawing in the ground is actually the area that the stage light is lighting up. That's also why the area not being lit is almost pitch black. And it's definitely not because I don't want to draw backgrounds. I don't know why would you think something like that. And second of all, in every video I make, I try to push my boundaries a little and experiment with something new. This time, I try to play around with the blur effect. Adding blur to your animations just make them feel more expensive, It also helps your perception of depth of field, or what I like to call DOF. But I wouldn't actually blur the things right now, I will do that later. Right now, I'm just tagging everything that's gonna be blurred. If only there will be an online platform where you can learn everything I just talked about. Wait a second. Want to develop a new skill or hobby, Skillshare is the place to go. Let's say you just started animating and want to learn more about the basics of animation. Skillshare will provide you with hundreds of classes about the basics and how to get started and many more. Now let's say that you've been animating for 5 years and want to change your animation software. Once again, Skillshare will provide you with hundreds of classes about different softwares that goes anywhere from 2D to 3D animation. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or a pro, Skillshare has the right classes to fulfill your needs. And that's not all, because the first 500 people that use my link in the description will receive 1 month free trial of Skillshare. Thank you Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Now let's go right back to the cleanup. Remember when I said that I might have committed a mistake while animating because my roughs were too rough? Yeah, so I spent a ridiculous amount of time cleaning up because I'm foolish for thinking I could fill the gaps from the rough animation while cleaning it up. But yeah, for the entire duration of this process, I was just suffering in agony and despair. Guys, as previously foreshadowed, I wasn't able to animate everything I wanted to. Mostly due to time constraints. So the last part of the fight had to be entirely cut out. I know I said I wanted to animate this fight before Mappa, but I didn't know I would have to work just like a Mappa animator. Regardless, I had to keep walking this lonely path. Coloring wasn't that complicated. I just had to keep in mind that they were being lit from above, so certain areas were bound to be constantly in shadows, like under the eyebrows, for example. Effects and camera movement. Let's put these two together because they go hand to hand to each other. Effects were way simpler this time, but there was a reoccurring one that I had to keep making every single time it appeared on screen, and that was Higuruma's sword. I wanted to do something fancy with it, but I decided to remain simple, so I just added a glow effect around it, and that was basically it. I also added this gradient that just gives life to animation. It just makes everything looks way better. And we can't forget to add the blur effect that I talked about earlier. I was honestly pretty proud of my blur work, if you can call that. I may have overused it in some scenes, but overall, I think I did a pretty good job. Camera movement was also pretty straightforward. Some shakes and some simple pans. The only different one was in this shot right here, because basically all the movement that's happening in this shot is from the camera, because this is the point of view shot. It's shot from Higuruma's perspective, and it's also the only time I actually drew a background in this entire animation. And guys, that was basically it. I was quite disappointed that I couldn't animate the whole fight, but you know, we gotta do what we gotta do. So if you guys want to cheer me up, do not forget to subscribe. This is the easiest way to help and motivate me to do more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, and here's the final animation. Ciao Hong Shu!